Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce. Week 1 of finals footy done and dusted. One of the best weekends on record of finals footy with the 4 games that were super, super close, Sauce.
Hey, Pez, not only were they close, high intensity, great crowds, footy's back. You know, it's been 2 years since Melbourne's been able to enjoy finals footy in the home of football at the MCG, and they were absolutely treated over the weekend. 90,000 saw Geelong get a 1-point win. You know, you had Melbourne and
Swans.
Jeez,
you can't even remember.
I can't even think, Fizz. I was so excited from it. They had them battle it out in front of 60,000. It was an amazing spectacle to be back in Melbourne. And then our interstate sides, Pez. Absolutely fantastic effort from Brisbane and Fremantle. One of the best victories over the weekend. They come from behind, 40 points down to knock out the Dogs. Beautiful.
And then the Swans. And last week, the fans and yourself, you remember me saying about finals betting and how I love to follow the underdogs. Not in terms of betting, but just in terms of I want not the underdogs, the interstate teams to win.
Yep.
And Brisbane beat Richmond by 2 points.
Loving it.
Sydney took out Melbourne and Fremantle took out the Dogs. It couldn't have worked out any better. And Collingwood, the other Melbourne team that lost to my other hated team in Geelong, but my lesser of the two hates.
Yeah, you hate Collingwood more, so I appreciate the support there, Pez. But what a weekend, Fez. And, it wouldn't be a footy podcast if we don't go through each game. There's only 4 games to go through, so what we'll do is we'll head through the games, talk about the wins, what teams did right, the talking points. We'll talk about our bet slips and our reviews from last week and going forward our bets and a little bit into the future, Pez, and see how we're tracking there. But started things off, Pez, Thursday night footy. You love it. It started off with an absolute cracker, and this had been predicted to be one of the better games of the weekend. We're sort of a toss of the coin between Brisbane and Richmond, and what an absolute treat we were left with, Pez.
100%, and just the time as well, because of the time difference. 7:20. Oh, great time for footy.
Perfect.
Finishes early enough. You can go to bed.
I just finished the Palmer as the first bounce came up. I ordered the bowl of chips for the second quarter with a couple of beers. It was perfect.
You're ready to go. But this game was unpredictable because I predicted it to be lower scoring than it was. The 210 points that were scored in the end, it seemed to be goal for goal, and I was thinking, come on, coaches, when are you going to put up the defenders or make your zone a bit tighter, go to man, do something to stop the flow of goals. Damien Hardwick hates getting goals scored against him. Chris Fagan, he just wanted to go head to head, bang, I'm not going to do anything different. We're going to go tong for tong in the middle, get it forward and try and kick a bigger score than you, and it ended up working for them in the last couple of minutes with a lot of controversy.
Absolute controversy did come over this game, Pez, and there was a big talking point early, but for how good a game of football was, that overshadowed it definitely, Pez. And I think that if the game was a bit of a poorer game and the rest of the finals were a little bit iffy, we would have been talking more about the arc blunder. But an absolute right, Pez, a shootout. Cameron had 3, Danaher had 3, Hipweb had 3, Lynch had 3 / maybe 4, Rewald had 3, Bolton had 2. It was just score for score, and the best offense, Pez, the best defense is a great offense, and it was an absolute shootout, goal for goal, and an unlucky defensive blunder at the end that cost Richmond a chance to continue the dynasty.
Yeah, that's it's unforgivable, the defensive blunder you speak about, and not just that situation, Source, but any situation. You've always got to have what the commentators love to call as the goalkeeper. Someone that's on the line, because you see goals bounce through all the time where there's no one on the line or no one's touching it, and they just didn't have the body on Joe Danaher to stop him toe poking that ball across the line. They had 3 or 4 defenders around him.
They had 4 bodies on each other, Pez. They spoiled each other. That's unacceptable.
You can't let that go through. So even though you've got the blunder of the arc and you may agree or disagree with what happened down the other end, they shouldn't have lost the game anyway, because you can't let that happen.
Yeah, so you speak of the arc blunder, Pez. The old arc or fark, because it was a bit of a massive blunder. Well, I'll get your opinion on it, Pez. He's in about 35 out, really tight angle. He kicks it above the post, and from the original angle that the arc is, it looks inconclusive. So that we're a little bit sure. We're like, okay, well, there's not enough to overturn it. The goal umpire had called the goal, but no overturned. I think from my angle, what I thought, my
the pub looking at the screen
about 5 or 6 beers deep, Pez, and it definitely looked like it went over the top. And if that pole had continued up in the air, I think it probably would have hit it, but not enough to overturn it. I don't think.
Well, this is where the issue lies. It's the letter of the law, and the rule is it's the umpire's call unless there is definitive evidence against the umpire's decision. Now, the angles that we saw, which is the 3 angles, and the 4th one that they like to show you now is the little heartbeat with the what is it?
The snicko.
The snicko or whatever.
Oh, the snicko.
Whatever it is, and it was over the post, so there was going to be no snicko there. But the 3 angles that we saw, like you definitively can't
overturn
say
it. You can't
do it. But common sense probably prevailed where they went, look at Lynch's reaction, because the player's kick tells you a lot. Well, even though it's not in the rules.
They said that. They said that was used. They said that later on that his reaction was used to help determine whether
they make it up on the spot here.
You're kidding, are you?
They make it up on the spot.
Tell you what,
if you're a Richmond fan, you're fuming over that.
Oh, absolutely fuming with that. That's not a metric of science to determine whether it's a goal or not. Tom Papley kicks a point and he celebrates for miles. He'll be kicking goals all the time. It's horrible.
Because that said, if a player goes to kick a goal and it's really close this week,
you're celebrating.
They have to celebrate as hard as they can, because if it is going to be reviewed and the ARC look at that's what you have to do. The coaches have to say that this week to their forwards.
It can't be a
kick
metric.
a goal and it's going to be close, celebrate like you've just kicked the winning goal in a grand final.
Oh my God.
That's what I would be
Tom
saying to the
Papley style. We can't wait to see it this weekend. With him having the week off, Pez, there'll be a few Tom Papleys there if Pez is coaching.
Look, even though that happened, I feel that that justice happened. He stuffed up the kick. Did you see him go back?
Yeah.
He was so unsure. He didn't know, the commentators weren't sure. He didn't know whether he was going to kick a drop punt or he was going to, put the left snap over the shoulder. He ended up going with a right foot banana, but he didn't run out far enough. It was, his run up,
it's a good problem to have though, Pez, isn't it? An elite full forward having an option of, in a tight angle, 4 different kicks there.
He shouldn't have that option. He should know this far out, this angle, this is the kick I'm going with, and be confident with it.
Pressure. And then that's why, Brisbane prevailed in the MPs.
Pressure. Was it Richmond's home game? Did you see the crowd?
Yeah, well, I mean,
how many Richmond supporters are there in Brisbane?
Only 57,000 there, Pez, as it was. So, the yellow and the red, it sort of combines a little
everywhere,
bit.
Wasn't it?
It was. But Pez, we've talked about the controversy, we've talked about the heroics late, but we haven't talked about the in-game heroics. Lachie Neale, after a really, really disappointing, if you talked about, we talked about Brisbane in the lead up to this and their big question marks over Brisbane. Lachie Neale put his team on his back, and they had an injury early with their big O having a broken nose early. They were looking a bit down and out, and he put his team on his back. 39 possessions, Pez, 15 clearances. He had 4 or 5 score involvements, an absolute superstar. And it's really good because there's been a lot of questions about Brisbane in finals, and someone had to step up, and Lachie Neale's a man. 15
clearances, 7 centre bounce clearances, and he had an opportunity at the centre bounces because there were so many goals scored. But 8 stoppage clearances.
That's without your ruckman in there, Pez.
39 disposals, 21 contested, 72% disposal efficiency. Like, he didn't go off Sauce in the second half. He didn't spend any time on the bench.
No.
Like, as a midfielder these days, that is unheard of.
Played 95% of the game. 95% of the game. And, thinking how, metres gained was 455 metres.
How big was he in that last quarter?
He was
if he
huge.
Wasn't there, they obviously don't
But
win.
how big's his fitness level, Pez? For 95% of the game he's played, in the last quarter, he looked fresh as a daisy. He looked incredible and was, crucial in them winning it. Some really important clearances, as you spoke about, Pez. But more importantly, he popped up at the right time, applied a couple of pressure tackles or, perceived pressure, as they call it. Forced turnovers. He looked magnificent. And if he plays that finals football, Pez, they're going to be hard to beat next week if he can put a team on the back like that.
Oh, I hope so, because
there are other people step up. But
they are going down to the MCG, and there are a few changes being made as well, which we'll speak about later. But Chris Fagan coaching from the sideline, He always rides it with his players. He was elated after the game for them to have the win, and the pressure was on because everyone was talking about Brisbane's finals record over the last 4 seasons, and it hasn't been too crash hot, going out in straight sets, finishing in top 4, things like that. And it looked like at one stage, third quarter saw 16 points down, and I even said, I was like, even though it's been goal for goal, it's high scoring, you can't really come back from here. They kicked the next goal, and it was like, well, maybe they can. And it just kept going, seesawing back and forth. Jack Rewalt was kicking amazingly from the boundary line, 50-metre out goals. Joe Danaher kicked one from 55. He kicked that toe poke in the goal square. It was manic. I couldn't imagine being there.
That last 2 minutes, Pez, it was great football. So there was so much pressure, high stakes, and as you said,
so many mistakes.
Yeah, but
in the last 2
that's
minutes
what happens.
because
That's what
of the
happens in
pressure.
football. You look at the start of the Collingwood Geelong game. Two of the top 4 teams in it was so much pressure around football. The football, sorry.
Wait your turn.
Yeah, but this was what happened in the Brisbane game, Pez. There was so much riding on every kick and every tackle and every contest, and it was fantastic. And it's disappointing that the AFL season is such a giant step away from what finals football was this weekend.
Oh, you watched
a huge step up.
And coming from me, St Kilda supporter, you watched those finals as a supporter that's outside the top 8. Those teams outside the 8, every single one of them, all 10 teams, wouldn't have been able to compete this weekend because of that pressure and the intensity that those clubs hadn't experienced and hadn't shown this week. There's a lot of growth and development to do in those bottom rung teams to compete with that.
Yeah, really big win, Pez, for the Lions there, and you are right. I think Carlton, if they had made it, Pez would not have put up as a good a fight in finals against their opposition. But let's get on to the second game, Pez, the Friday night clash, Pez. This was an absolute classic as well, Pez. It started off a game of runs, Pez. Sydney sort of got off to that sort of up and down start in that first quarter. Melbourne got ahead, and then Sydney just worked them out, and what they did, Pez, is what is the key to beating Melbourne. And we've spoken about this a lot, Pez. If you want to beat Melbourne, there's 2 things you do. You stop them from scoring, so you force them to do that long bomb kick in there that they continually do. And the second thing you do is stop the ball from kicking. So stop kicking the ball into May territory.
That's the thing.
That's the key. They did that. He held Buddy goalless, Pez, but that was irrelevant because what they did is they worked around. They had long shots out from goal. They worked to the wings, and they were able to slay the Giants, the premiership contender, Pez, the reigning premiers, Melbourne.
Yeah, and if the blueprint hadn't been shown from Melbourne giving up 5-goal leads earlier in the year, the blueprint was definitely on show for everyone to see here with how to beat these demons. And Stephen May, he was nearly 3 votes in the game if there was a Brownlow medal involved. Yeah, he was taking all these intercept marks. He was kicking efficiently out of that defensive line, but it just kept happening where Sydney would get the ball, they'd kick it away. When they kicked it away from May, and they actually got the ball to ground inside that forward 50, Melbourne were under so much pressure. They were fumbly. They couldn't get those little handballs out, and when they didn't, Sydney pounced. They got the snaps, they got the goals. You look at the Sydney lineup, their best players didn't really perform. You got Buddy Franklin held goalless, as you said. Papley, he put the pressure on, yeah, but the statistics aren't there. Isaac Heaney had a bit of a shocker, if you ask me, like nowhere to be seen. But they were in spots, and as a team, John Longmire coached them perfectly on the weekend. I know Melbourne got the jump, but they seem to get the jump every single time they lose Melbourne. And Sydney are just able to crawl back without any superstars dominating possession or anything like that, and were able to work it out and get that ball to goal and win by 22 points in the end really comfortably.
Yeah, really blew it out in that last quarter, Pez. But it's exactly what you said. It was the blueprint to win. After that first quarter, they got on the screens around the huddle, and you could see Horse in there talking about it. And they adjusted their game plan, Pez. And they're like, right, we're just bombing it in. We're so buddy centric that we're just bombing it in, and we're kicking it straight to May. Let's go around to the wings. Let's take that extra kick and get that 45-meter long shot at goal, or let's get a forward entry there. And as you said, bring it to the ground, get a couple around the back, use the wings, and it is scary for Melbourne because it is a very clear blueprint how to beat them. And with their troubles in front of goal, like again, Melbourne struggle to kick goals. And it's not because they haven't got the forwards, Pez. Like Fritsch kicked 2, kicked 3, Oliver kicked 2. But the problem is because all they do is just bomb it in. They bomb it in long, and even, Sydney's not a great defensive team, and they were able to just get a fist to it and put it to the floor. And once the ball's on the floor, Sydney get up and running, and they got that counter attack.
You say that the McCartan brothers, the centre half back and full back, they only had 22 disposals between them for the amount Melbourne went inside. So they were nowhere to be seen either, and it was just able to double team Ben Brown, who was a target a lot inside forward 50. He wasn't able to take the contested marks, and then Melbourne weren't able to take advantage when the ball's on the ground, and Sydney were able to run it out through the likes of Lloyd and co. And it was just it was good to see them struggle. Melbourne fans would have been excited to be back at the MCG, and just they haven't seen them play a final at the MCG. There hasn't been a final at the MCG before that game for
First
a couple
one in
of
2
years.
years, yeah.
So
it's disappointing for Melbourne. It's really disappointing for Melbourne that if they finish second, they have a home qualifying final in front of their home fans. They lose to Sydney, who hadn't played in a prelim final pairs since 1996. A home prelim final from 1996. So they're not playing a terrible opposition, but this is set up for Melbourne. This is set up for them.
Well, when Sydney won the last game of the year, but didn't get enough percentage to get a home final, I said, they've cost themselves but they've actually won themselves into a home prelim final, which is absolutely amazing from where they've come from last season and where everyone rated them at the start of the year.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on it though, Pez, but Melbourne won the inside 50s by 7 and lost by 22 points. And again, they need to get away from that bombing it in. And we haven't even talked about the concerns for this week. They've got a couple of injury concerns, Pez. Petrarca went down early with he didn't go down, Pez. He went down like a sack of shit for the first time. But it was
stayed on the ground.
But it was a corky, all right? So that was why he was walking around a little gingerly. Turns out he has a broken leg, as the Herald Sun puts it out there. Broken leg, stuff. It's a hairline fracture in his leg. Melbourne says that he's 100% ready to go. We saw what happened on the Friday night that we didn't even talk about with Dusty Martin playing a player who's injured. He wasn't 100%. He goes in there. Melbourne moving forward. It's a hairline fracture, Pairs. They say he's 100%. He'll get the jab. He'll be ready to go. Is it the wise move to send him in with a broken leg and a hairline fracture?
I'm no doctor, but if I've got a crack in my bone,
jump online. There's a lot of doctors out there, Pairs.
I've got a crack in my bone. I've got no idea. So if he's fine to play, they'll play him. And if he's 70%, I reckon they'll play him and they'll play him forward. But I'm worried about him flying for marks, especially if he does play forward, and the landing, because the landing, if you've got a crack in your leg, can you worsen it? Can you do something? I know you can take painkillers, but you don't want to do anything for the future either. You don't want to damage anything further. So I don't know. The doctors will probably make the best call for the player, I hope, and not just for the team and to have him there. But Melbourne's big problem, and it's starting to show, is their forward line, and they don't have that big key forward that can, take a contested mark and go back and kick a big goal in a final and really take it by the scruff of the neck.
If they go in there injured, Pez, do we see Brisbane of old? Old Mel Michael maybe giving him an old razz up? Give him a little bit of a...
You can't do that. Stephen Baker did, Stevie
J.
J.
Yeah, Stevie J. That was in a final, wasn't it?
What did he get? He got 8 weeks or something.
I mean, Stevie Baker took it a little far.
Just punching his hand.
Make it a little bit more discreet. But I was talking about Brisbane when they did it to Nick Riewoldt, and he had his shoulder, and they're bumping him on the way out.
Oh, the Scott brothers.
Yeah,
yep.
Mel Michael and Chris Scott. So it'd be interesting to see if he is targeted. It'd be interesting to see the relationship that Zorko cops on Friday night as well, Pez. I can't wait till we discuss that game, but we haven't finished discussing the other final games. Let's get on to the next one, Pez. It's funny, I feel like we say this every second or third week this season, and after the Friday night game, I'm like, wow, that was the best game of the season. And then we get the Sydney game, and you're like, whoa, that was really good. This is going to be a cracking final series. Pez, this was easily the best game of the weekend. This was an absolute cracker. I was at the game, Pez. It was an electric feeling. 96,000 people at the ground, Pez. MCG, home of football. The Collingwood faithful were out and about. And they got off to a flyer, Pez. And as a Geelong supporter and as a nervous Geelong fan, Pez, after a bye, I was sitting there shitting myself, Pez. I was very,
couple
very
of
worried.
messages to you throughout the game, and I was like, don't do this to the rest of Australia.
Oh,
mate.
Pez, it was horrible. But
what are they doing?
Collingwood got off to a great start, and what they continued to do throughout the year, that quick pressure, that quick turnover, getting the ball out the back.
I hadn't seen it before.
Right. It was wow.
I hadn't seen Collingwood do that, and Craig McRae, credit to him, has coached them very well, and this is the way we beat Geelong. We have to go. We get the ball, we turn, we go. They were going so quick that Geelong didn't have any presence in mind to be able to stop anything. And Collingwood just kept entering 50. They actually cost themselves in that first and second quarter source because
inefficiency in front of goal.
Collingwood could have won the game in that first half. They missed a couple of crucial shots at goal, and Geelong were at all sorts. Geelong were okay getting the ball to halfway, but then after that, Collingwood would just take it, they would rebound it back, and they would go. Geelong struggled to score for the first 15 minutes of the game. They couldn't even get the ball down there.
Yeah, well, Gary Rowan had the first shot on goal, Pez, about 45 out and missed. I think he hit the post, so hit the post for the first one.
Good learning curve for later in the game.
It was later in the game, Pez, and after that, and everyone's sitting there, and Geelong faithful after his last couple of performances, last final that he played, Pez had 4 touches in that grand final, and
there's big talks going into the week
about it. Shouldn't
play Gary Rowan.
They put him there, and he misses that, and you think, oh shit, we are in for an absolute flogging here, and we're lucky that the Geelong defence actually stood up and forced a couple of errors, Pez. The pressure, it probably didn't translate on the TV, Pez. The pressure was elite. There were so many players, elite players looking fumbly, and I'm talking Pendlebury and Selwood, and there were elite movers of the football just looked like they didn't have any time. The pressure was immense. The amount of kicks for a team 1 versus 4 that went out on the full or went missed the target, not because of inefficient kicking. The pressure was elite, Pez, and Geelong were really lucky to stay even relevant in going into that first quarter.
Yeah, it was silly, but I've got a question for you about your coach, because he's done better in the last year or so. He changed his game plan. He probably took too long to change the game plan here, but he started Dangerfield and Selwood on the bench.
3 quarters. 3 quarters he did that. First quarter, second quarter, and third quarter. What is he doing?
Is there something wrong with you?
What are you doing?
Well, and the commentators were talking on TV. You weren't watching it on TV, obviously. Oh, it's to protect them from the big game. Who else do you want in the middle of the ground a big game?
Sorry, Pez. Sorry, protect us from the big game. We had a week off the week before. The last month, I think they've played 3 games. We win that. We have another week off. They've only got 2 more games of football left. We don't need to protect them. Joel Selwood wins this premiership, he retires. He's got 2 games of football left in his career. Patrick Dangerfield, he's looking for a premiership. Why are we protecting them? You need to have your best cattle out on the field at all times. We saw that on the Thursday night with Lockie Neal. Right? Yeah. Superhero stuff.
What's he trying to do? Like, Tom Atkins is starting in the centre bounce, and I know Tom Atkins has been a show favourite.
Well,
I know he has.
Last quarter, Pez.
But what do you want? Tom Atkins in the middle of the ground, or Joel Selwood to start in front of 91,000 people?
I want my captain in there, a proven leader, someone who has played 17 final series in the midfield, starting off, leading from the front, Pez. Not from the bench. I don't want him on the bench coming on. I want him in the action straight away to make a case.
They couldn't get him on for the first 8-9 minutes.
Yeah, ridiculous, Pez. But we're taking away from some of the superstars that in this Geelong comeback because
it has to be mentioned
because it was a huge comeback. I thought Collingwood's their forward line was really great. Johnson, geez, he's a great kick for such a young bloke, Pez.
A couple of. He's a good kick.
Oh, he looked good, Pez. He looked really good.
Couple of wobbly misses, the collie wobbles.
The fourth quarter, when the pressure was on and Geelong were coming, he looked a little bit shaky there, Pez. All right, we get on to the second half. There are a couple of real big heroes this one, Pez. Superstar performance from, if you said before the final series, Pez, if Geelong are going to win this game, we're going to be talking about Gary Rowan. You wouldn't have read about it, Pez, but he had an absolute elite performance. He was, after that first miss, Pez, he went back and gathered his nerves.
He had a rundown tackle on the wing.
He had a rundown tackle, Pez. He had 3 or 4 huge marks, and I'm talking pack marks where he stood up, went back, didn't even look, Pez, no nerves for him, backed himself, went and kicked some really crucial goals, and then obviously, sealed it with the handball to Holmes after almost necking himself, getting out the back and dropping that mark, Pez, because if he drops that mark and it rattles away, we're having a very different conversation.
Oh, yeah. And Gary Rowan, the definition of an X-Factor type player. He can win games off his own boot, and he can go missing and be like that. You spoke about Max Holmes. Max Holmes, no one knows who he is. He came of age in that fourth quarter with 8 or 9 disposals, and he kicked that goal, and the goal scored a little gimme over the top, but his running power, he seemed to be everywhere. He was in defence, he ran forward, and he just outrun Collingwood. Like, De Goey was doing everything he could the other way, and De Goey, put his hand up for a massive contract next year, whichever club
He's had some big
he
finals
plays for.
campaigns to go.
Like, he's just got to sort out the off-field stuff and just focus on-field for the next, 5 or 6 years, and then he could be an absolutely amazing player as well. But I think Collingwood still lose the game at selection. Mason Cox does not add value to the Collingwood team.
Did he play? He was non-existent, Pez. And, Geelong don't have... they've got Jack Henry, who sort of he probably takes your bigger forward there, Pez, but he was non-existent. Those little blokes from Collingwood absolutely ripped him up. He was non-existent.
In a final, with that much pressure coming in, you're not going to get the little, I've got 5 metres on my opponent and I'm going to mark it. He is not going to get that. I don't care how tall he is. I don't care how many hit-outs he gets. He has no influence on the game. He's played one good game, which is the prelim final against Richmond in 2018 when they kicked him out, when he actually took contested marks.
6 disposals, 2 marks from your forward.
It's not happening. Your ruckman forward.
Shouldn't happen.
If he doesn't get dropped this week, I'm really surprised. And if he plays, I'm actually happy he plays because I'd love Fremantle to knock Collingwood out.
That'd be good, Pez. We speak about some of the other superstars in the Geelong win, Pez. Jeremy Cameron, he is worth every bit of Geelong that he owns back down there, Pez. And Tommy Atkins, what a fourth quarter, Pez. I think he had 13 disposals in that and 4 or 5 clearances. He's really stamped himself as one of the most improved players in the game, Pez, and a little bloke, that people didn't know a lot about, and Geelong were criticised a lot for not breeding these young guys through. He was ripping up our VFL for the last 2 or 3 years, Pez, and
he's a tackling machine.
Wow, had 9 tackles for the game, Pez, and
around the ball.
Around the ball, he just seemed to always be there. Once he gets a little bit cleaner, he's going to be a real superstar of the game, Pez. But it's a great win for Geelong, getting over those prelim. Not those prelims, but that qualifying final headaches because they have really struggled.
They were 1 for 9. They said that during the telecast. I was shocked. 1 out of 9 in the first week of finals.
Yep.
You've got to be kidding me. But Jeremy Cameron, you said he's worth every single cent, square metre of land that he's got because he's the best thing to happen to Geelong in your recruiting since Patrick Dangerfield, and even better than Patrick Dangerfield because he's more important. He's a big-time player. He loves the big stage, and he will get the job done when it matters.
And what's good about him, Pez, is that he's just sort of been allowed to, this season, just sort of left to his own devices. He wants to push up the field. He pushes up the field. He becomes another elite midfielder. He gets the ball off the side. He becomes that lead-up forward. He becomes the diversion. He becomes he's an around the ball player, and he's a lead at everything, Pez. And that goal he kicks from that pocket, Pez, with the Collingwood players and spectators chirping in his ear and just the little turnaround, a little bit of an ear, and you're like, wow, what a superstar of the game in front of 90,000 for that to be the answer after the De Goey goal up the other end.
Yeah, well, De Goey kicks one from the other
pocket, does the same sort of thing. The old, hey, look at here.
Jeremy Cameron does it there. That's finals footy at its best. 91,000 people.
So electric.
You'd be upset if you're on the end of the losing team as a supporter, walking away from the MCG. But if you are a Collingwood
you'd be a bunch of losers, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but if you are a Collingwood supporter, you'd have to be. I know it's hard to say because you lost, but you got to be proud of your side.
There's some interesting comments, Pez, because Craig McRae after the game. I understand what he was saying. He says that obviously when the siren goes and the boys go down lying on the floor, acting disgruntled about the loss, and that's acting like losers, and we play. Winners don't lie on the ground. Some odd comments, and then I think it takes away a little bit from the effort there, but I like what he's saying is that it wasn't a heroic effort. We are meant to be there. We're meant to be there with the best, and a lot of people doubted us, and we took it to them, and we shouldn't be upset with it because we just missed out. But it wasn't a once in a lifetime thing.
I understand what he's saying, and I understand where he's coming from, but it's not a good look for all your supporters. And people are actually saying on Twitter, saying, "Oh, what would he know? What would he know about success?" And someone's like, "Oh, we won 3 flags at Brisbane," but yeah, there you go. But obviously, he does know something about being a successful club.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's an interesting mentality. I mean, for the head lines to go out after, our players were acting like losers. It's not a good headline, taken out of context, obviously. But
yeah, a little play on words there.
But obviously, he has the respect of the playing group to be able to go out and call them out with that.
But they've just put their heart and souls on the line in front of 91,000. It's a natural reaction to go, oh shit, I've just given everything. I think
it was more fatigue, Fez. Like, exactly. You looked at the Geelong guys celebrating, they were stuffed as well. Everyone was knackered. I was standing in the stands, And I was knackered. I felt, physically fatigued because it's so tolling being in one of those games, and I'm just watching, sitting there drinking a couple of beers.
Couldn't imagine.
But those blokes running out there, giving everything, and it was a hard fought game. There was, high intensity, high pressure. There was so much emotion in it, Pez, and I think it was literally fatigue. But it's good that those high standards are still set there, and I don't think it was malice, but some interesting ways to summarise your performance.
Interesting ways, but we get to the elimination final here, which is the big one, and it was over early, Sauce, because the Bulldogs kicked the first 6 goals. They're up by 41 points. Turn the TV off, go to bed. Good night. See you later.
Yeah, Fremantle, Pez. I was driving home from the footy there, heading to the next pub to watch this, and Pez had a good weekend at the pub. Yeah. But heading to the next pub to watch this, and I had it on my phone, and I'm like, oh God. Maybe I won't go to the pub. I don't want to be, I was drinking Footscray and I didn't want it to really to sit around and watch this, Pez. But the Bulldogs got off to an absolute flyer. Marcus Bontempelli had one of the all-time great top 5 quarters in AFL history, Pez. He was incredible in that first quarter. But at the same time, Pez, Fremantle could do no right. Right from their second game of Pez, he had a mark right in front of goal, and he blunders that. Pez, they missed open shots at goal. They missed handballs. There was one stage they basically handballed it straight to Western Bulldogs bloke who went and kicked. I think it was their 4th goal, and they looked all over them, Pez, and it looked like a really, really disappointing end to quite a good season for Fremantle.
Yeah, and we spoke about the danger of this with Fremantle getting the home final, but it being an elimination situation. They had a packed house over at SBS Stadium, and there was so many Fremantle fans in that crowd, and it was just silence. It was like, what the hell is going on? Is this really how we're going to send David Mundy out? And that's what I felt for, because I was sitting there going, I'm actually really tired after the first 3 finals, and doing everything over the Thursday through to Saturday. I had a cat nap Saturday afternoon before the first game, and I was like, you know what? I might be ready for bed here. If the Bulldogs kick another one, it might be done. And Mrs. is laying in bed. We did make our way to bed in that second quarter, and goes, if Fremantle kick 2 goals before the end of the quarter, we might be all right here. There was 4 minutes left, Sauce, and I said, I'll be happy with just 1 goal and go in at 21 points down. They kicked 2 goals, went down at halftime, 15 points down. I was reinvigorated. I was ready to go for this second half.
Yeah, they kicked 11 of the last 13, Pez. So they piled it on. But the way that the AFL write-up online was that the Bulldogs conceded. And they really did.
They did.
There was an absolute switch, and it was led by Caleb Sarong, who was fantastic. And, geez, this kid has a bright future, Pez. Built for football. He was a leader around the ground. The second game I had, took, a couple of nice grabs in there, set them up. And
now, they say Amos, but I love calling him a miss. A miss is what I call him, and he did miss that goal, hit the post. He was like about 15 metres out directly in front. They hadn't scored a goal yet, and it was really bad for him. He's been through some kidney surgery earlier in the year, and he's come back for his second game of AFL footy. Ended up kicking a couple of goals and a couple of really big goals with set shots. So he was able to come back and do it. Walters, he's been written off at the start of this year.
Just one of his best games of the season.
And he just comes out and pumps up the crowd and helps get them over the line. 13 points in the end, and you just got to hope, and you just got to wonder that Fremantle can come out and be competitive this week at the MCG.
I think they will be competitive, Pez. I think that they have a quite a good blueprint to beat Collingwood. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but Pez, their defence was really good. They looked that midfield, that young midfield of Brayshaw, Sarong, and then led from behind, Pez, Luke Ryan. He's got back to his form from a couple of years ago. He's looking really good.
Hayden Young. How good is this season?
Their back line is
where do they find these guys?
So composed.
Where do they find these guys?
At the back of the waffle, Pez.
Back of the waffle. Hey, just sit out for the rest of the season. We'll pick you up at pick 48.
Pick 48. The old West Coast thing. We always joke about that. I don't think it's ever happened since the 90s, Pez. But you look all around the ground, Pez, and everyone stood up in that second half for Fremantle. But Pez, they had Tony Liberatore was out. They really missed him, Pez. They really missed Liberatore's run through the middle. Bontempelli, he went to sleep in that second half. He was nowhere to be found. The Bulldogs are in a bit of trouble going forward, Pez, because they got an interesting conundrum with them with all that forward pressure. They've got a lot of tall forwards around, and there's reports of more of them coming across. They're in a bit of trouble there, Pez, and the forward line they've got at the moment isn't working, because the moment you stop the Western Bulldogs from getting the football, they're in trouble.
Yeah, they need to get the footy. You've got Aaron Norton as your centrepiece there. and that's what they're going to have for the next 5 seasons. I think Ugelhagen, he had a shocker on the weekend, fumbly, drop marks, but I think he is the second forward there, or at least maybe even the third forward. I don't know how you bring back a Josh Bruce and Aaron Norton together in the same team. I don't know how it's going to work. They need to have someone, and they're not going to get him, but someone like a Toby Green, and Bulldog supporters would hate saying that because they absolutely hate Toby Green, but someone like that who's a mid-sized forward who can take a mark on the lead, can take a contested mark if needed, but can play on the ground as well. You've got Cody Waitman who does it. You've got, what's the West boy? Riley West. He's not the answer. So I don't think he's the answer forward either. They need someone who is special. Like if they could pick up someone like a Tyson Stengel who became All-Australian after a little bit of trouble.
They've got Cody Waitman down there.
I'm saying Cody Waitman's on one side. They need someone else. They can't just have Cody Waitman playing
when
for
he takes a
free kicks down there.
dive, he probably gets around the other side of the ground. Sorry.
He probably does. You're trying to get into the Bulldog supporters here. But, Cody Waitman, there's a spot in there for him. But Liberatore, he really helps him out because he does go forward and kick goals as well, Source. He gets them, out of the boundary throw-ins, out of the ball ups 45 metres out, and he creates opportunities. And without him in that midfield, no good. The Bont, you need him in the middle, but you also need him forward. Like the Bulldogs' forward structure, that's going not too good. Their midfield, super, super strong. Their defence.
Is it strong and efficient though, Pez? I had this discussion with someone over the weekend. They've got so many people playing the same role. They need more players to be able just to leapfrog into an offense. They've got so many people. They just overpossess the ball, and it goes round in circle until there's an opening. I think they would be better to maybe, like they're probably going to lose McRae. Lockie Hunter, are they going to lose?
Probably Lockie Hunter.
Probably going to lose Lockie Hunter, but, they need Bontempelli in there. They need
Liberatore. They've got McRae on the wing.
But they've got all these other guys in there that need their reps in there too, and it actually is a deficit to the Western Bulldogs.
Well, this is a player they're going to lose. They're going to lose Josh Dunkley. Yep. And Josh Dunkley is one of their most important because he's a great midfielder, but he can take an overhead mark. He's not the mid-sized forward that they're after, but his overhead marking ability is great. But count him out. He's actually gone this season for sure. He's going somewhere else.
He's not going to go to Essendon?
So they've got to find another solution there, and I don't know what they're going to do. They've got Alex Keith down forward, who's a solid centerpiece down back, and I think they just need to find more down there, and I don't know how they're going to reinvigorate their list to be able to compete, not just make the top 8 or fall into the top 8 like they did this season, but to actually compete for the top 4. I don't know how they're going to turn that around really, really quickly.
Question for you, Pez. How is Beveridge not under more pressure? How are we not talking more about Beveridge?
2016.
But he played in the grand final last year, Pez. Everyone recognises the amount of talent on that list. I think that they're really undercoached, and I think that, how he's not being more criticised for blowing a 40-point lead in a final and then losing by 13 points. I was discussing this with a mate yesterday. We went for a walk, and he's walking his dog, and he's got his Bulldogs beanie on, Pez, and we were discussing this, Pez.
Is it a Libba beanie or a Bulldogs beanie?
Just a Bulldogs beanie, and we were discussing about Beveridge and that. I had actually funny story. This guy was driving around, yells out of his car, and he's like, "You're gonna lose that dog, mate. You're gonna lose that dog." We're like, "What?" I had no idea what he was saying.
Going to lose the lead.
Yeah, yep. And he goes, with your mate holding it, got no chance of holding the lead, and it was absolute best, Pez. This random bloke yelling out of the car, walking around bloody Bandura, and
how good's that?
So good, Pez. And he just sits there and he's like, "Yeah, I can't not knock that." But the Beveridge thing, Pez, it was actually just funny. But the Beveridge thing, Pez, I know that they're saying, and you and I agree that the premiership buys 5 years, but the year they won their premiership, they finished 8th. That list hasn't finished in the top 4 in the last 5 years, and missed finals once.
And probably should have missed finals apart from a Carlton collapse this season as well. It must be his little mustache and goatee combo. Must be keeping the press off him.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's his shout at the bar, Pez, because for me, I think that they're going to stick with him too long and they're going to waste their window because they've got enough talent there to be able to win. And they continually they're getting more talent, Pez. They're getting more talent. Like Luke Darcy, not Luke Darcy, sorry, the Darcy boy. Sam Darcy, he comes in like he needs the reps. You got Hugo Hagen needs the reps. Timmy English, Aaron Norton,
Darcy. I just need to say, please don't keep playing him in defence. Play him forward.
But that's the problem, Pez. They've got such talent there. They're playing everyone out of position because they're holding on to stuff. Be efficient. Be a Danny Ainge. Trade them away. Be the Toronto bloke. What's the Toronto GM when they traded away?
They traded for Kawhi Leonard that season.
Leonard. Cut your losses and go, you know what? Let's go for this properly. Let's trade away some of our key pieces and get shit we need. Because at the moment they've got 10 blokes playing the same position and playing everyone out of position, and they're finishing 8th every year.
Just for context for non-NBA fans, they traded DeMar DeRozan, who was a 7-year veteran at the club, who was loved.
The greatest Raptor of all time.
Loved at Toronto as one of the greatest Raptors. They traded him for a Kawhi Leonard contract, which was only for 1 season.
Yeah,
and they had him for the 1 season.
They'd finished top of their conference, Toronto, for 3 or 4 years and gone out in straight sets, basically. And they're like, well, we're just sick of being mediocre and just here. We're going to go for it. And they did. And they got their championship.
They won the championship with Kawhi Leonard, as
with
we say.
Bold
and then
move.
and then he left straight after the championship.
That's fine.
They got it. Done. Imagine you did that in AFL. You're laughing.
But I guess, people are going to be like, oh, well, the Bulldogs, they got their premiership. But yes, you fluked the premiership. Because let's be honest, they had their best month of football, as everyone says. They got very lucky.
In fact, they got it, Sauce.
Right? Yeah, they got it.
They've got it. They've still got it.
But you can't be okay with just the one.
They made it last year.
Piers, but they were up 30 points in a grand final and they lose by 40. They then next year, they scrape into the finals on the back of someone losing by a point.
Up by 41, lose by 13.
Do you know what I mean? Like, something is wrong there that it's ludicrous that we're not analysing deeper. Like, it's ludicrous that we're not talking more about the Bulldogs. And they just go again, they're like, oh, well, they finished 8. Well, they can do it from here. But again, Pez, they're going to miss a really great window. And I know we're going over time, Pez, but
let's worry about the Bulldogs next season, which I'm sure we're
not going to talk about them in the bet slip.
We might maybe in the review.
Nah, not the bet slip though, because they're not playing.
Yeah, not the bet slip. You love that, but let's get into this. And I love talking footy, and we went over week 1.
We went way over.
But hey, week 2 of footy. There's
games.
only 2 games. Let's see how long we can go for there.
Soft review. It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
Just a lazy 40 minutes in, Pez, 3 beers deep, and we're probably onto the bet slip. But it was really good to talk footy, Pez, and 4 games, Pez. You got to talk it with such an electric final series. Hopefully, we bought something a little bit different to what everyone else is talking about, Pez. But let's get into the bet review, Pez, where we go back through how successful we were. And I'm gonna just move around, Pez. I'm just going to go around and stand behind you because you let everything go through to the keeper this week with a nice little fucking donut. So every single one of yours hit and miss, Piss. I just want to make sure that you don't have any spillages to get through to the keeper.
What do you mean hit and
You
miss?
did not even get close this week, Piss.
I edged a few down.
Did not edge Eddie.
And there was some great catches down at 5th slip down there.
They were dropped every time, Piss. All out.
If I was batting, they were taken with the opposite hand diving.
You had no idea what I was doing there, Pez, did you? You like that one?
I thought you were actually coming to sit next to me on the chair here.
I just wanted to see the donut, Pez. What we talk about, obviously, in this segment, Pez, is we go through the bets from last week and we reflect because we are always accountable. We don't hide away and shy away from it, Pez. And after a massive, massive season, not a great start for the finals.
Well, not. And if you're looking at it in a solo week, not at all. And what did I say last week?
Finals are hard.
Finals are hard, but I was pretty confident in what it was, and it was pretty much one bet for me, Sauce. That cost me, and it was on the Thursday night as well because we will get into that anyway. So Brisbane,
what a shootout!
Brisbane versus Richmond. We both had the under in this, Sauce. I'm pretty sure from last week.
Correct.
I had under 177. Even took the extra point.
I had a 178 and a half pairs. I still couldn't get it.
Yep, and. Really confident with the 2 units on there and just did not happen. It was also in my multi, which I'll talk about at the end, but it was a shootout at the end when it went over, when I knew it was going over in the third quarter, Sauce. I didn't really care about my bet, if we're being honest. I know we're trying to make money here, but I just loved watching a good game of finals footy, and I was glad Brisbane got up in the end to take that 2 unit blow a little bit easier.
Yeah, I had two bets in this one, Pez. I had the under 178 as we spoke about. We lost, but I stupidly actually put that into my bet because I was super confident with about it. And Pez, that game's played 100 times. A shootout like that doesn't happen in finals. We saw that for the rest of the finals, so a little bit unlucky of a read there, Pez. But you take the loss. I had Brisbane to win, which they did, and the plus 13.5, Pez. The old 2 wins that you're pretty confident in, and the old one rounded out there, Pez, with the 178. So a bonus bet for that one, which I've used this week.
Yeah, Melbourne, Sydney come here, and this is where we were head-to-head. And the part where I didn't like it is when Buddy took a dive and got a free kick down the field, and then went and took another dive. Over 100-kilo bloke playing in the AFL for 13-plus years, Sauce, runs into his defender and falls over and tumbles. And they pay another free kick downfield. And it was like...
I mean, it just shows you how bad a game that Buddy... And that's one thing that when Buddy is having a bad game...
That's how frustrated he was.
He gets so frustrated that he does this stupid shit.
But it wasn't stupid in the end.
No, but it wasn't, Pez. But it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, well, that is not a good look. It's not a good look. It's not the right way to play footy. But Pez, as you said, it worked. And one of the things that did work in that game, Pez, was my multi. We did go head to head. I had the over 132.5, Sydney plus 36.5 alternate handicap, and then just the standard alternate handicap, Pez, plus 12.5. And I did last week very convincingly tell you that Sydney was going to win. If you remember that, Pez, I was a bit up and down, but
you had no idea. This was the bet. You had no idea. And I was sitting there in the first quarter, and I was going, Melbourne have a good lead here. I was like, surely
can't wait to get into Source.
surely they're not going to give away a lead like they did to Fremantle earlier in the year, like they did to whoever else they did. I don't know who else they lost to off the top of the head, but I had under 192 where you had the other one, so that got up. Plus 23.5 got up because they lost by 22, and the 12.5 didn't get up. So I got a bonus bet from this game for my 2 units and started off 4 units down after 2 games.
Speaking of his frustration, Piers, I also had a one from the fans. A good listener to ours just chucked us a little bit of a message on Bet365.
It was Derek, yeah.
Derek, he lied to me though. He said I could get $40.
He said $40.
I could only get 10.
You could only get 10. Now Derek may have been able to get 40. I did have a look at that message after you'd already responded to him, Sauce, and I went on $1.15 he was to kick a goal, buddy, and they gave you $2.
$2.
And I looked at it and I was like, you know what? Big final, MCG. I don't know if Buddy's actually going to kick one, so I didn't take it. So I wasn't able to see how much they let me put on with it.
But in terms of punting, Pez, it's a great move if you can get something that's $1.15, and him to kick a goal. Probably sits about $1.15. Probably sits a lot closer to $1.01. But his finals performances haven't been great. He's playing on the best, the best fullback in the game. Even with those sneaky free kicks, he had a couple of shots at goal. But $2, you got to take that. So I put 10 on it, Pez. No good.
I'd love for them to go. All right, he's $1.15 to kick a goal.
So what would it be about 5?
5.25.
Yeah.
5, yeah.
5.20 not to kick a goal. Jeez, that's good.
Not to kick a goal? I would have taken that as my cheeky during the week for Buddy not to kick a goal, but obviously they don't offer that because they don't want to lose money.
No, they don't at all, Pez. Talking about cheeky, Pez, I was absolutely well off on mine, Pez, but only a fingernail, Pez, from getting a bonus bet because I had Stengel 2+ goals. He only kicked 1 and had the little... The arc. He kicked it and it was touched off the boot.
It was off a set shot, wasn't it?
Set shot, yep. I had Geelong plus 7.5 and I had Geelong 40+. But Pez, I don't even care that I lost that game.
It wasn't even the arc though, because the field umpire called
but they went back through the arc.
Yeah, they did.
They put the snicko over there.
They're going, obviously he's too far out because he got too close to the man on the mark, didn't he?
Yeah, well played there, Pez. But I wasn't even that upset that it lost, Pez, because it was a cheeky. It was a finals, and I was treated to one of the best games of footy that I've ever been to. Outside of an emotive Geelong premiership win, that was amazing.
There's a big call, and to beat Collingwood,
great,
nothing better. I had Geelong plus 19.5, under 165, which got their Sauce. The unders for every other game.
Every other game, close on your multi.
Geelong minus 16.5 didn't happen. I was very, very confident with the minus 16.5, but the play at the end, in hindsight, was the Geelong 1-39. But I didn't trust in the Pies, and you had Geelong 40+ in yours.
Yeah, so you should have definitely gone the 1-39.
The final game was the Dockers and the Dogs. I didn't have a bet in the game, but they were in my multi.
Same here, Pez. I had no bet in that one, but my multi of just Geelong and Fremantle with my bonus bet at 204, so doubled up that one, Pez. I should have put down the multi of all the 4 teams, Pez, because last week I called them confidently.
You called them confidently. Now, my multi, very confident in my multi this week. It was paying $14.53, And 3 out of 4 legs correct. Under 148 in the Freo game, under 161 in the Melbourne game, under 164 in the Geelong game, and under 177 in the Brisbane game, which ended up being 210 points. So far off on that, but 3 out of 4 legs. And it turns around if it goes the other way. But in punting Sauce, you got to wear your losses, and it's a donut for me.
When was the last time you had a donut? Like an actual I know we made a bet.
Like didn't return anything.
Like I'm glad that you lent into the donut bet, because that has been one of our our ideas for the show, but not the time to do it, Pez. This week I need you to be a bit more serious. Okay?
Last time I had a donut in a round of footy.
It's a long time.
It's a long time, but I bet 5.4 units on the 4 games, and I returned a donut. So I lost 5.4 units.
Donut for everyone else there means 0. It means you didn't get any tips right. They all went straight through to the keeper.
All lost. I got 3 units back in bonus bets, which I'll use this week. But year to date, 219.2 units staked, 296.16 units returned. So I went under 80 for the season, Sauce in the profit. I'm back down to 76.96 units profit.
Call yourself a punter, Piers. That's disgusting.
Let everyone down, sorry.
Under 80. What a joke you are. And we make laughs with that, Pez, because under 80 is incredible. Under 70 is incredible. Pez, I'm sitting at 35.5, and that's pretty incredible for units for a season. So I staked 5.8 for the week, returned 4.46. I still went with a loss, Pez, of 1.34.
Oh, letting everyone
units.
down.
I did let everyone down, Pez. Staked for the year 194, returned 230. As I said, a profit for 35, Pez. Together, we're up 111 units for the year in a season of football, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'll take that 111 units and buy myself something very, very, very nice at the end of the footy season there. We do have 3 weeks to go. We've only got 5 games to go, Sauce, and a Brownlow medal night. So we will see how we go. But let's get into week 2 of finals footy.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Now Betts with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate, and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
Oh, yes! Yes!
3 weeks, Pez, 5 games, and of course, the specials for week 2 of the finals.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang!
Yeah, only 2 games, but the specials are here. So AFL finals at Sportsbet, 3+ leg same game multi. If it loses, $50 back in bonus bets. It's the same thing over at Ladbrokes, and you can also include the $2 lines there. Neds have the 20+ halftime payout, which we've said is pretty horrible. 3+ leg same game multi as well, and $2 lines. Bet365 have the footy multi-bet offer, but they've also got the 32-point up special. Now, I've heard from a fan again, a listener on Twitter, that I didn't put it in last week in the specials, and I don't have it in the graphic again this week, but it is there, the 32 points up. You actually have to go into the game and you see it at the top. So they don't have it in their promo section, but they do have it there. So a bit poor by Bet365, but we've got our fans onto it, Sauce, which they'll tell us where it's at. Tab have the 3+ leg same game multi. 1 leg fails, you get a bonus bet back up to 50. Blue Bet, 12 point at halftime, you get paid out. PointsBet has the exact same thing with the picture of Shaquille O'Neal as well. If you are still eligible to bet on PointsBet, which we are not on Behind the Boundary podcast, but please take their money if you can. Multi-bonus footy, multi-bet bonus at Bluebet, and they've also got a midfielder mayhem, they call it, and I have to put this in every week, Sauce, but I don't really like the Bluebet ones. See if you like this one. Clayton Oliver and Lachie Neale to combine for 65 plus disposals.
Don't like that at all, Pez.
65.
65 is a lot. They average between the two of them 32 and
They could both
32.
Get, they could both get 32 and you
then
lose that bet. It's
Quick
not a
maths
good
there, Pez.
bet.
Good job.
You just go... both
So especially when Melbourne have proven before that they can, tag Neale for a start, it's just not a good bet.
And Oliver's been tagged as well. Now, Moneyball, you've actually been able to send me these because it's been a Thursday source, so I can't see the Moneyball specials.
Why can't you see them, Pez? You banned?
Yeah, banned from Moneyball as well, which...
I was a little uncertain.
I want to just send Moneyball, Sportsbet.
Our bet slip.
I want to send them a bet slip from last week and be like, hey guys, you want to offer me anything? And I'll deposit some money. We'll see how we go. They've got head-to-head disposals. Viney versus McCluggage, $50 max stake. Singles only, ties void. Absolutely love when you can get head to head.
Ties void. Love
Ties
that.
void is the big one, Sauce, where it puts it in the punter's advantage. So if you think you can get an advantage and you think Viney or McCluggage, you put it on there. $2, max bet at 50. You got it there. Crisp versus Mundy is the same thing. So you have a look at those two. You go from there. Now, first goal scorer in both of the games, Magpies and Dockers. You've got the first goal scorer bundle. So Myercheck, Elliott, Lobb, a miss to kick the first goal.
And do you want them to kick the goal? If they said they're going to miss.
And if a miss or anyone else is a late exclusion, Josh Dacos to come in as
As the sub.
which is not good.
Yeah, because you're losing a Fremantle player.
But he could be the sub. Demons and Lions. Pickett, Brown, Cameron or Danaher to kick the first goal. You'll notice that Bailey Fritsch isn't in there.
Well, that's unusual considering that's their main forward.
Yep. So I don't like the first goal scorers, but I do like the other head-to-head ones, but I can't get on. So if
Who do you like in them, Pez?
anyone else can. In both of them,
Yeah.
in the tight contested game, McCluggage is going to have a huge one for Brisbane to win. I'm all over Brisbane this week, so I'm going to go McCluggage. And in the other one, Mundy versus Crisp, I'm going to have to go Jack Crisp for Collingwood to beat David Mundy.
Yeah, that's exactly who I have, and I've actually gone with McCluggage in my bet slip. There's a little bit of a spoiler.
Well, there you go. There's some of the bets there. You've got any your mates over there?
A pickle bet? Nah. Couldn't get me out of this pickle, Pez.
Other sponsor that you
Donut bet? No, and not with Mint bet either, Pez. I actually didn't check them. Actually, I probably should.
disappointing from.
They didn't.
Bet, is it?
They didn't reach out to me, and I'm still waiting for the sponsorship, Pez. But
We need some coin.
You can
before
get hot pies for $2. So if you think the Collingwood team can get it, you can get $2 for Collingwood in the prelim final.
To
Make
win.
sure you go over to Mint bet.
Collingwood to win this week. $2.
Yes, Pez. Easy money Maggies to beat Freo this Saturday.
What's the max
It
bet?
says Saturday. It keeps going off my screen.
You have to tell me the max bet here because you
the
can make
max
some money.
bet's possible. It doesn't say 100. Oh, I don't want to put on it, but max bet 50. There it is.
Max bet 50. All right. So punters out there, a little trick you can do if you've got it. What's it called? Mint bet.
Mint bet.
Sign up to Mint bet. Go that. Put the $50 on Collingwood to win at $2.
Mm-hmm.
So if they win, Sauce, you get $100. And if you like Freo, go somewhere else. Put $50 on Freo as well. If Freo win,
Well, you could put 20. You could put 25 on Freo Pez, and you can walk away profitable either way.
you can. You can put a
$8
number.
winner if Freo win, or $50 winner if Collingwood win.
You can put a number on it. Yep, exactly right. So you can be profitable no matter what. There's going to be no draws because there is extra time in finals as well. So there's absolutely no reason not to get some free money there.
Yeah, free money, Pez, and we love that promotion. So to get over to the good people at MintBet and make sure you jump in there and drop the name Spicer in the chat. They should give you some bonus bets there, Pez. All right, let's get in. Great weekend of footy, Pez, because both games are in Melbourne. Two massive games at the MCD. We start things off Friday night, 7:50 start, Pez. Melbourne taking on Brisbane. Hopefully it's not a repeat of what it was 2 weeks ago in Melbourne, absolutely thumping the Lions. $1.30 favourites are the Ds, $3.40 outsiders are Brisbane. -20.5 is the line. Over under, Pez, 164.5. As we saw in the first week, a lot of the games went under, but not the lowest unders of the weekend, Pez. 149.5 is the other game. Just throw it there.
With Fremantle involved, yep.
But Pez, let's get into this. So how do both of these teams win? Who do you think wins? We talked about the blueprint earlier with Melbourne, what it is to beat them. Have Brisbane adjusted from 2 weeks ago when they got absolutely thumped?
Yeah, you want to hope so because we don't want to go from week one of finals, which was absolutely fantastic footy. You don't want a big flogging here. And you don't want Melbourne to come out and win by 40 plus. You don't want Brisbane to come out and absolutely annihilate them. We want a good contest. So the way you're going to get that is you're going to get an even battle in the midfield. Melbourne's advantage is in the ruck. So you got Max Gawn against Brisbane. We've got McInerney out with an illness source. So Max Gawn in the ruck. Where Brisbane can get an advantage is taking care of Melbourne's forwards because they don't have that key forward. And you've got to go from there. We spoke about the blueprint to beat Melbourne. What do Brisbane have to do? They have to win the ball out of the middle. They don't even have to win the ball. They can get it off turnover. They have to get that ball inside the forward 50, and they have to get the ball to ground. All right? Joe Danaher, he may not take 5 contested marks and kick 5 goals, but if he can get the ball to ground and he can get players like Charlie Cameron and Zach Bailey around his feet, Lincoln McCarthy, source, they can pop up They can kick a couple of goals. They can put Melbourne under pressure, get Melbourne fumbly, get Melbourne worried about the ball. Brisbane Lions could win this game. And that's what they have to do, and that is the blueprint to beat them. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, and if the tall forwards of Brisbane are actually going to do that. If Chris Fagan is even going to mention this, they'd be stupid not to. They would have been watching film all season, but I think Brisbane have a really good opportunity here.
Well, I mean, I think that if you've got to have any money on anyone to beat Melbourne after the loss in the prelim pair and the qualifying final pairs, your money has to be with Brisbane because they did experience that absolute belting at home 2 weeks ago. So that would have been absolutely analysed to the town, knowing that straight away the next week that they're on that same draw as Melbourne were. So if they were to beat Richmond, that they would be facing either Melbourne or whatever, they would have gone through it, Pez, and they would have seen the way that Sydney has beaten them, and they would have seen exactly how. What's the matter?
Oh, had to.
Sorry.
I'm just intrigued in your.
But yeah, they would have had to see how that Sydney beat them. They would have seen that how Melbourne beat them. How that long exposure, they're kicking it to May, and Brisbane continually let themselves down there. There has to be adjustments there, and I think they've put themselves in a really good spot to be able to beat them. Can they do it? That's the thing. Can they follow through with this? They're playing a few hurdles, Pairs. They're obviously playing the reigning premiers. They're coming off a lot of mental demons in not being able to win in Melbourne for the last 10 years, specifically at the G. They're without a ruckman. They're playing one of the best ruckmen in the league. It'd be really interesting. Melbourne have an elite defense, and they have a really solid defense, and most of it's just because it's deterring. Joe Danaher, you probably say gets locked out of the game because you say May probably goes to him.
I was going to ask you that question, so that's great. So can Joe Danaher stop being a selfish footballer and play for the team? Take Stephen May out of the game.
I think that's what they have to do. I think that Joe Danaher gets a lot of his goals out the back, and I think what he has to do is he has to be a leading forward, and he has to push up the ground, Pairs. A couple of weeks ago he played. He had a couple of big shots from 50 metres out, and that's what he's got to do. He's got to lead forward and put Stephen May out of that contest, and then he's let his little blokes. What's the little bloke's name? Charlie Cameron. Pick up some scraps. He's had a rubbish final series of the last 3 or 4 years. They'll need him to pick up the scraps. Let Cam Rayner, Lincoln McCarthy, let those little guys pick up those scraps, and let some of the other forwards do the handiwork, as well as their midfield pairs. I think they can get a couple of goals out of McCluggage. I think Lachie Neale can go forward. We know he loves a ping. I think that's how they beat Melbourne. They bypass that forward line. They spread the ball. They lead out to the pockets, and they bring Danaher and May out of that forward line.
Yeah. Bring May out of the forward line, get the ball down to anyone else and get the ball to ground. Now, with the Cam Rayner comment, Cam Rayner's been playing forward a majority of his career. He has had time in the midfield, and he has been pretty successful in some games. So I think you bring Cam Rayner out of the forward line, you put him into the guts, into the centre clearances, and you put Zach Bailey down back into that forward line, who he runs forward and he works really hard and he gets that. But I need Bailey, Cameron, McCarthy on the ground, ready to pounce, ready to go from there. We know Robinson's dropped. We know Matheson, the barometer, is not in the team anymore. And we better go through the teams. There's only 2 games source. Matheson omitted, McInerney in illness, Jackson Pryor omitted, and Mitch Robinson omitted. Noah Answorth comes in. Darcy Fort comes in, which is interesting because he needs to do some ruck work against Gawn. And Cam Rayner comes in after that 1 week suspension. Melbourne, no changes rather than Joel Smith, who was the Medi-sub last week, might be the Medi-sub again this week.
Yeah, it's the Fogarty inclusion is very interesting. You need the ruckman there, Pairs, but if he's going up against the best ruckman, he's going to concede those losses anyway. Why not put, who's the other big bloke that they run in there? What's the other big bloke's name? Can't think. Who did the backup work for him last week? Not McCluggage. McStay did it last week. So, just run McStay in there again and run through that again rather than have Fogarty in there. Gives him that extra midfield. Fort. But that's what I'm saying. So it's interesting.
You said Fogarty.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Fogarty. Anyway, Fogarty can get fogged. All right. But for Melbourne to win, Pairs, what they need to do is they need to make adjustments too. They need to go back through that tape and realise what they're doing is just bombing it forward to, forwards who aren't stand-up big mark forwards. Ben Brown's in horrible form up there, Pez. You know, you've got...
You can't bomb it to Fritsch.
You can't bomb it to Fritsch. He gets out the back. Cozzy Pickett had an absolute shocker. You know, he works in those situations where you do bomb it forward. But,
He needs to be on the ground.
but scraps don't happen, Pez, in finals like they do in the regular season. He's not going to get those easy scraps. You saw how hard it was for Joe Danaher to get that goal out the back, Pez.
There's no Wiedemann.
No Wiedemann.
He's not back in the team.
Do they bring back... who's
No
the-
Tom McDonald.
Well, there's talk about him coming back. They
Well, he hasn't been
hasn't
named.
been
but
named.
Does he come back as a
late in?
Malcolm's been playing forward. He's not a premiership player. He missed out last year, and he didn't offer him anything last week. Like, I think Malcolm goes, and I think you got to bring back Wiedemann or McDonald, and I would bring back Wiedemann as a tall forward.
Wiedemann before McDonald, Pez, but Wiedemann, I don't know if he's available. Like, you know, you're probably going McDonald because he had a pretty good week in the VFL last week, and he's running out of time if he's going to be, a premiership player again. You sound like you're leaning towards Brisbane. I definitely think Brisbane can do it again. You heard my theory last week, Pez, on I'm not sold on Melbourne. I believe they have to be playing at their absolute best to be able to dominate. After last week's small sample size, Pez, and showing how there is flaws in their game, and I don't believe that they're good enough to be able to adjust, I'm all over Brisbane, Pez. I've got 3 bets in this game, all Brisbane dominated. I've got my I've got a 3-leg same game multi. Lockie Neal to get 25. I think he is an absolute superstar in this one, Pez.
He'll get 25.
He'll get 25, no problems. I have Brisbane plus 40.5 as my alternate line. And as I spoke before, Pez, one of the keys to winning is Brisbane staying away from that forward line. So I've gone with one of their midfielders. I've gone Hugh McCluggage to get a goal. He had 2 last week. He had a goal against Melbourne the week before. If he can get that run and they've got that game plan executing, they're going to have a fair few pings running out in the middle from that and avoid that. So I think he can get a goal. I've got 50 on that, Pez, 292.
Even if you're wrong about Brisbane competing, if they lose by 6 goals, you can still get that up.
Yeah,
So
the McCluggage one at $1.80 is, I think, an absolute bargain, considering he's kicked 3 in the last 2 weeks, once against Melbourne, and the key to beating them is those midfield, those long goals.
DMC, all right, yeah, we'll take that there. So that's one of your bets.
That's one of them.
I've got 2 of them.
Yep, sorry, go.
I've got 2, so I'll go through one. I've got 1 unit here staked on this 3-leg same game multi with Neds. I've got Brisbane plus 20.5 at the $2 line. It was 19.5 earlier in the week when I looked at it, so 20.5. I'll put the alternate handicap in, of course, plus 56.5. The first one that was $1.10 or more, and I've put the unders 165.5 because Brisbane, if you want to win, you're going to have to defend Melbourne, and I'm hoping for a Brisbane win. So if they don't defend Melbourne are going to kick a high score, and it's not going to go under anyway. So that's where I'm hoping there. It's $3.62. I'll put a unit on it, and I'll go from there.
I like that, Pez. I think the theory behind both of our bets makes sense, and I think it's something that you can get behind. And as you said, even if the result, our desired result, doesn't happen, there's a good chance of both of them getting up. My second bet, Pez, is just the Neds bonus from last week, 50 on the $2 lines at plus 18.5 with Brisbane. So I've got 50 with that one, Pez, and then I also, as mentioned,
As you went early in the week.
I did. I went because my bonus bet was going to expire on the Tuesday because we did the podcast on Tuesday this week.
Oh shit!
I know. So, and I also had, as mentioned, Pez, Viney versus McCluggage in the head-to-head. I've gone with McCluggage again, my man. So,
and hopefully a goal in there as well.
Hopefully a goal in there, Pez. So I'm all over McCluggage and the Lions to get started through our first game, Pez.
Second one, and I'll tell you that 1 unit that I just staked. That's all I'm staking this week.
That's it.
The rest are bonus bets.
Love it, Pez.
And in this bonus bet, Melbourne versus Brisbane, $7 you can get here. Brisbane, wire leader. Let's go.
Is that your cheeky?
No, but later at quarter time, later at halftime, later at 3/4 time, win the game. Brisbane Lions, $7. A little 1 unit bonus on that.
That's juicy, Pez. Do you know you can get plus 20.5 now, Pez? Wow.
That's what I got.
Wow.
That's what I got.
Wow. All right. Collingwood taking on Freo, Pez, in the second game. MCG, Saturday night, Pez. It's disappointing we have to wait all day Saturday to find out.
7:25 though, game start. Is that right?
Yeah, love it.
I like that time.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Halfway through my first pub. Maybe I'm on my 3rd or 4th beer. What are you doing this week, Pez? I got a Saturday night off. Do you want to hit the pub?
Saturday night?
Saturday night, Fremantle, Collingwood, see Collingwood lose. Anyway, let's get
Just
into...
want to stay away from Collingwood.
All right. Collingwood $1.52 favourites start this game. Fremantle outsiders 248. Minus 10.5 is the line. Over under 149.5 pairs. We spoke about finals being extremely low, and this one is really low. 149.5 pairs. Really interesting. We spoke about Brisbane and Melbourne and the keys to winning this one. I think these two teams have the opportunity to really expose the other team. Fremantle, obviously, Collingwood get like to get out the back. They like to run that fast football. Because we know that Fremantle are quite good defensively. They can get back there. They can slow that ball down. But at the same time, it's its own deficit because Collingwood, their elite pressure, they force turnovers, and when they force turnovers, they go. So it's a really interesting game plan for both pairs, and it's going to be a great final, I think.
I'd never seen pressure like that from Collingwood until I watched last week's game. The teams here, big injury.
Huge.
Taylor Adams is out.
Really big. And you know what, Pez? A lot of people talked about him not being an important piece. He gives you 24, 25 every week, and he was huge last week. And he didn't do anything massive, but
takes the bumps, takes the bruises in the middle. He
does all the grunt work.
Lets everyone else play on the outside a little bit. Kruger, the Medi sub, but Trent Bianco comes in. They're trying to hit the forward line there and trying to get a bit there.
Mason Cox in?
Not out.
Free money on Freo, 248. Jump on now.
That could be good. Bailey Banfield was the Medi sub last week. Didn't get on.
Yeah, disappointing.
But if I was coaching staff or selection staff, I'd be putting him in as a bit of an X factor who can play forward and kick some goals here. But no changes otherwise there. Now Sean Darcy is going to come up in the ruck against Mason Cox, and I think Sean Darcy can have a day out.
Huge av.
We've got to talk about how Collingwood can win, and we've got to talk about how Fremantle can win. And if Collingwood show 80% of the pressure they showed last week, Fremantle aren't going to be able to move the ball like they want to move it down the other end. So Collingwood would probably win the game. They need Mason Cox on the bench most of the time so they can really kick it to some other forwards and really take advantage of that. So Myercheck needs to have a big game. De Goey needs to come out of the centre and needs to kick some goals. Pendlebury off the halfback and through the centre, needs to be really efficient with the footy like he always is. So a few things need to go right for Collingwood there, but they're $1.50 favourite source. What needs to go right for Fremantle? They need to play the intercept game really, really well. They've got Luke Ryan, who plays the intercept game really well and needs to be really efficient. They've got Hayden Young, who took 11 marks last week and needs to continue to go. And that third bloke, Brennan Cox down there, who they really need to, take those intercept marks and continue to go up forward. And then when they get the ball in that midfield, Brayshaw, Sarong, Frederick out on the wing. When he gets the ball in some space, he's really, really quick source. They can get the ball into that forward line. Rory Lobb probably has to kick pretty efficiently and kick pretty straight for them to win. But I like their chances if they can get that intercept game going from the defence.
It's not only the intercept game, it's how they handle the pressure, Pez. Like, if Fremantle are going to win, they need to settle. They really need to settle, and they need to control the pill and then just take their spots, pick their spots. And once they're out of defence, let the midfield look after themselves. We know that they've got scoring power down there, Pez, just like Fremantle do. And, Collingwood's defence isn't as strong as Fremantle's, but they need to hit the score early. And I think that whilst they have come back from 9 first quarters this year, Pez. So 9 times this year they've been down in the first quarter.
You don't want to be down here.
You can't be down against Collingwood because we know that they hold on to big games. We know that crowd is going to be 90,000 and there's going to be 85,000, Pez. 85 of them are going. 85,000 are going to be Collingwood. And once that crowd takes hold of the game, you get an emotionally charged Collingwood, a young Collingwood with nothing to lose. And that's the big thing that makes Fremantle a little bit, probably tiptoe around this game. So they need to not give up an early lead, settle early, and control the game. We've seen them win earlier in the year, Fremantle. They're a team that has beaten good teams in Melbourne. They've beaten Richmond. They've beaten Collingwood once before. Earlier. No, they didn't. Sorry, they just lost to Collingwood early in the year, and they beat Melbourne. So they know that they can do it at the G. They know the ground. Their style of football suits it, but they've got to execute, they've got to settle, and they've got to make sure they hit the scoreboard early.
To hit the scoreboard early, they can't be putting it inside forward 50 like they did last week.
No way.
Blake Acres was dominating the game last week. He could not kick. He could not hit a target inside 50 to save himself. So that needs to change this week. And my first bet there, you were talking about the 85,000 crowd. I've got $1.15 for the Collingwood crowd to chant Collingwood in the first quarter.
$1.15.
Paying $1.15.
That's terrible odds.
They're probably going to do it, even if they're losing.
Terrible odds, Pez.
Did you? Was that ringing in your ears last week?
It was, and I sat there, and being firsthand hearing it that early, Mum was sitting there going, "Oh, shut up," and she would get up. It's kind of breathtaking to hear because it sucks the life out of it, Pez. I don't even know what the word is. It's so not morbid. I don't know. That's not the word, but eerie. Eerie's the right word. And you just hear it, and it really sucks the life out. But $1.15, that's terrible odds, Pez, because that's definitely going to happen. That'll happen in the Welcome to Country.
That means it's good odds because it's going to win.
Nah, terrible. You no make return.
No,
all right. Speaking of odds,
no
Pez,
real bet there.
What are your bets, Pez, for the game? It sounds like you're sort of swaying towards Fremantle because of your hate for them, but your theory makes a little bit of sense there.
Yeah, I've had to talk myself into it here. Like, I don't rate Collingwood as a top 4 side. They only lost to Geelong by 6 points. They probably should have won the game and had a home prelim final. So
that's crazy to think.
It's hard to think coming from 17th, but I just hope this Fremantle Dockers side can put up a fight. I'd really love Fremantle to win as an AFL footy supporter. But if the Pies do, they obviously deserve it and have the easier side of the draw, having to travel to Sydney to go over there to play in a prelim. And Fremantle would really, put their hand up as well to go and play up at Sydney. So stakes are high. David Mundy's last game, Fremantle's third biggest game in the history of their club. It's massive stakes here. The Collingwood fans, they're not going to cope with a loss. And there's going to be a lot of violent crimes in Melbourne if Collingwood do lose this game. And 85,000 people are roaming the streets as Collingwood supporters after this. I've put a bonus bet, 1 unit, Fremantle to lead at every quarter. How good is that? Paying $5.
Is that you cheeky?
No.
All right. So I agree, Pez. I actually think Fremantle win this game. I think that you're talking about a team that should have finished top 4. They were a little bit rocky in the wrong stages. What I liked about them last week, Pez, is they don't give up. And what it is a little bit concerning that they've been down 9 first quarters and still won games. But that shows that there's a lot of fight with them. There's a lot of belief. They don't give up. They trust in their structure. They trust in the game plan. And if you're going to beat Collingwood, Pez, you need to control the game because they work so hard on that sporadic football, and I think Fremantle is a perfect way to do it. I don't think that the team gets out the back as much because I think they control the pill a little bit. I think they really suck the life out of the game. I referenced that the Western Bulldogs versus GWS game that we saw, the worst game of football a couple of weeks ago, where the GWS just kicked the ball from back and forth till they had their run and they picked it. Fremantle are a lot better at doing that and they can execute it. I think they suck the life out of it early. They get that lead. I've got them a 3-leg same game multi. Caleb Sarong, 25 disposals. This bloke's an absolute superstar, Pez. Body built for finals. I think he gets that. Fremantle to win is my toughest leg, and then Fremantle plus 43.5. That gives me odds of 368, 2 units on that one.
Yeah, little bonus insurance there, hoping that Fremantle can get it close. Actually, maybe not even close. Maybe
I think they win, Pez. I think they win.
Maybe have a big win. That'd be absolutely fantastic. And we go from there. A lot of people will disagree with us, but tell us at Behind the Bound. See what you've got. See how many units.
I know you're talking yourself into it, Pez. I think this. If we look at the 2 games, I think offense versus defense. I think that Fremantle have the defense and the offense between Collingwood and Freo. They're about on par, and I think Fremantle take it.
I hope you're right. Now, I'm going to get to my multi, which is my cheeky.
Of course, it is.
Has to be the cheeky.
Mine too.
What's the button?
Cheeky.
Or just cheeky that.
Cheeky.
Double cheeky that up. My multi is just a simple one. 2 legs. Let's go the interstate multi, it's called. Go the Brisbane Lions to win. Fremantle to win. It's paying $8.97. Put a cheeky 1 unit bonus on that.
I love it, Pez. I've gone something a little bit different.
Cheeky.
I've gone the Pez Hater Victorian Finals multi, which is Brisbane and Freo, and I've gone power played and I've gone $8.89 Pez, $10 on that one. So make sure you jump on that one. The Pez hating Melbourne teams winning finals multi. You can get that a great sports bet on that one.
So that's
We have the
worse-
same multi.
That's worse odds than mine, but you got it earlier in the week, obviously.
I actually just did it before.
Okay.
What betting agency did you go?
I went Ned's, but
I went Sportsbet.
Obviously, the odds have gone down since I placed the bet. But if the two interstate clubs win this week, we're going to have a great time on the pod next week.
We are, Pez.
Talking about the prelim finals. But who did Geelong play?
Who will play Melbourne or Brisbane?
Who do you prefer to play as a Geelong supporter?
Brisbane.
Because they're away from home?
Yep.
Because they're on the MCG?
Yep.
You don't want to play Melbourne? They've given you a bit of trouble in the last couple of years.
They have really given us a bit of trouble. I am more confident in Geelong than I have been in the last couple of years. But you're picking the team that finished second versus the team that finished third. You're picking an away team versus a home team. Brisbane's the obvious choice.
You take Brisbane more.
Who does Sydney want to play, you think? Crickets? Shit.
Yeah, I'm looking at both of the clubs. I think
Makes for
Sydney
good
is sitting in
podcasting.
such a good
They don't care.
position that they don't care. If they could choose, they may even toss a coin.
Wow. Yeah, they're in a great spot, Sydney. Really good spot. And it's a great story. And they're a good team to watch too. You don't mind watching
If they
Sydney.
can read the future and Craig McRae picks Mason Cox in a prelim final, then they'd pick Collingwood.
Jeez, you're such a flog. Right, let's wrap this up, Pez. It's been a long podcast.
It's-
Where can our fans find our bets, Pez, and where can they get on and give us 5 stars and give us some comments?
Well, we know at Behind the Bound on Twitter, everything is there. If you want to message us, like we've mentioned, the fans in the past
Fans
few
have been
weeks.
great the last couple of weeks.
It's been amazing seeing everything
Not the
come
last
through.
couple of
and
weeks, all year they've been great.
Yeah.
Fans have been great all year.
Yeah, I know. Last couple of weeks you get a little bit up and about, for finals. But all year, yes, have been great. So thank you to the fans for sending in messages every week. And Spotify.
Spotify, iTunes, all good podcast providers. Jump on, give us 5 stars, but also leave a comment there. That's how the more comments we get, and even if it's negative comments, give us the 5 star, give us the comments. It helps us go to the top of the rankings. It helps us be present when you type in AFL. We're a little bit down the page there, Pez, but with our bet slip, we should be at the top.
Oh, I thought we jumped up there on
We did.
Apple Podcasts.
We are top 100. We are top 100
We were
in
doing
that.
that.
But Pez, on the Apple iTunes one, we're a little bit far down. If you typed in betting, we're number 1, but you got to type in AFL betting specifically. So let's try and get to the top of AFL betting by dropping 5 stars. Leave us a review. Send us all your bets on Twitter. Give us, share the page. Do everything you can to support us, Pez, because it's pretty remarkable what we're doing. 100 units for the year, Pez, in an AFL season, and there's still 3 weeks to go.
Yeah, we're ready to go.
111 units.
111, and if you want to, ride my coattails, you can with my 76 out of that.
I'll go on my own, Pez. 35 units.
Go on.
35 units for a season. Loving it.
Putting us on the shoulders and going there, but
we're a team.
Enjoy the interstate clubs trying to take the chocolates this week. I'm Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Sauce. We'll catch up next time. And as always, if you're having a bet responsibly.